Coming up in this episode, we blow up our PC, we make a mess of Spawn, we force Unorthoblocks members to fight, and we accidentally drop a radioactive core. Hi, I'm Draken, and this is the DrakenGameWerks, and welcome to what must be the cursed episode. No, it is not episode 13, it is episode 12, but it feels like this should be episode 13. Mainly because if anything could go wrong, it probably has gone wrong. You may have noticed it has been a while since I released an episode. This is because while I was recording some of the parts for the second episode I was going to do on my Star Citizen series, my PC went bang. Now, if you ever pay attention to my credits at the end, you will notice that my PC is a pretty high-spec PC, which means that the cost of replacing the parts that went bang was not cheap. I ended up with a sudden unexpected expense that ended up blowing up my graphics card and my hard drive, and it meant having to reset everything. And oh man, I've had a rough time. I've really had a rough time. Now, in some senses, this has sort of kind of forced my hand a little bit because I actually wanted to upgrade my PC anyway. I wanted to update the graphics card and do a little bit of tweaking and cleaning up of the PC anyway. And I was going to do that between Season 3 and 4. Unfortunately, I kind of had my hand forced by this PC blowing up at the time. And it was basically my graphics card, which is one of the most expensive components in the PC itself. So I have replaced it now with a better graphics card. I've had to replace one of the hard drives because it was a solid state drive that suddenly lost all of its writing speed. Oh, it's been chaos. It's been chaos. Of course, that means I've had to also reinstall all of my software. That includes everything: Premiere Pro, Minecraft, all the various mods, all the bits and pieces that I use in order to make an episode. So it's taken me a while to get into things. And to top this off, this was going to be a point in time because I was building something, as you'll see in the rest of the episode, that was going to take a little while to build and work through. That, yes, it's led to it being quite a long time since I released an episode, so I do apologize. But we are finally getting there. So PC woes aside, let's actually get on to what we were trying to do in this episode. So you may have already seen on some of the other members' streams and on some of their videos, there is a game that I have built on the server. It's a game called Spawn's Edge. It's a PvP game. But what we haven't seen so far is actually me building it and putting it together. So that's what this episode is all about. So let's go and shoot over to where the Spawn's Edge is going to start from. We mentioned it in the last episode, but there is this area just behind my cathedral where the intention was always to build some sort of rustic buildings. But then in the surrounding areas, we got these wonderful builds by Sunny Spacecraft with the Zen Guard, and we got AJ's wonderful town just across the river. We also have Iondas's bridge up at the side there, plus a few other things in the area. So I thought, well, actually, let's really make this a bit of an area that will also fit in with the wonderful designs that are all around it. But to begin this off, I'm not doing what I normally do with minigames where I go away into a creative world and design it all first and then come back and build it in the main world like I did with ODM. No, this time I am going to build it from scratch on the server itself. So whilst I'm not pre-building this, there is some planning work that has to go into it. So the first thing I did was I came down here and I put out all of these lines of wool that you see around here, red, yellow, and blue. This is to mark out where I'm going to put buildings that are going to be related to the game itself, because some sort of form of planning is actually required. Below ground, we also dug out a large number of chambers. In fact, well, actually 3 chambers underneath, not a large number of chambers. But we also marked out in here with the wall where we were going to put corridors and walls. This is going to represent the subterranean section of the game itself. So all of this sort of planning out just gives me a chance just to work out where things are going to go, where I'm going to build around. And it's only a rough layout at this stage. I'm not fully committed to it. It's just gives me an idea where things are, so I also know how I can build the redstone to go around it. And talking about redstone, these are the key features of the game. These are the dispensers. So there's going to be 27 dispensers that are going to be spitting out into barrels Unorthoshards. And it's quite a simple mechanism. All it does is you have a dispenser, or a dropper, sorry, I should say, behind the barrel that fires an item into the barrel when it receives a signal. And there is another redstone torch underneath that locks the hopper beneath it, but can be unlocked to drain the barrel when the game comes to an end. The next bit of redstone I built here behind the cliff face, because there's this little gap between the cliff face and the original hill when I built the cathedral above. So I used this space to build this. So this is the collection system, and it might look a little bit complex, but it's not really that complex when you break it down. So essentially each barrel has an item filter on it to make sure that only Unorthoshards can drop through. And then it counts how many, using a comparator, how many Unorthoshards have gone through. And once a certain amount of Unorthoshards have gone through, the comparator gives out a certain amount of signal, and then that triggers the game ending state that puts the game to an end point, and it declares one of the teams a winner. Next bit I built was the randomizers themselves. If you have been watching my episodes, the last several episodes, you should recognize this design based on a Mumbo design with some adaptations and etc. to enable it to work. But it is basically a shulker box randomizer that produces 9 different signals at random. We built 4 of these into the game itself. 3 of them go to those 27 dispensers that we were talking about earlier that drops the Unorthoshards. The final 4th one is going to trigger another 9 similar dispensers, but these ones are the weapon systems that drop out weapon crates and stuff that people can pick up. To make sure that we get the timing on these right, we have 2 hopper clocks attached to the randomizers. One is attached to 3 of the randomizers, and this triggers off something around about every 10 seconds, and then the other one triggers every 30 seconds for the weapons crates. Returning back to the surface here, you can start to see as we progressed on, there are more redstone lines starting to be put in, carrying the signals from the randomizers to the various droppers that are around the game itself, and plus another redstone line to be able to actually unlock those redstone torches that enables them to drain at the end of the game itself. And returning back to one of the hopper systems here, this is another hopper system I put in here for the actual end of game reset. So when we press the end of game reset, we need a few minutes to give enough time for both the scoring system and the dropper system to release all of the items they've picked up during the game. Work then carried on. There was a bit more digging out, and we started to put in place some of the tunnels that would lead from the sort of the player bases. And this particular tunnel itself had to sort of go down underneath another tunnel which has the water coming out from the catacombs. So to give space, it has to sort of duck down underneath it before coming back up. And both players' bases will come out both into the village and into the subterranean section. And we're making sure that both players' bases had that. As we added more redstone lines in here, the place is starting to become quite crowded. Thankfully, there was just enough space, but as you can see, it becomes a bit of a maze following all of the different redstone lines, working out what one's going to where and powering what thing. That was the bulk of the redstone, but we do need to actually do the game starting system. So this is the start system here. It's bare bones. So the idea here is both teams can press the buttons to let them know that they're ready. And once both teams are activated to be ready, it's just a bunch of switches. It then just puts the game into start mode and begins starting the randomizers that start then triggering out all of the items. But as you can see, the redstone starts to get very, very complicated back here. And then we put on the other side the actual reset system over here. And we had to do a few tests as we we're going through to make sure that we got everything correctly balanced. But this reset system then sends a signal off that will actually reset the system when the game comes to an end and enables it to be set up again for the next game. Back at the player bases, we also added a few more bits of redstone. Here's the redstone mechanisms to be able to open the doors at the end of the game. It's just a couple of sticky pistons that pull open some blocks, and also the entrance tube which has some dispensers inside. This is because when the players enter straight after respawning, they're going to get a sword and a shield dropped into their inventory. And with all that redstone in place and having done a test so that basically we know that all the dispensers are going to drop out the Unorthoshards and weapons at the prescribed times, this means that all the redstone stage of this has actually been done. The next part we need to do is actually build the rest of the game. Do you want less stress in your life? Then don't blow up your PC. This mental well-being message was brought to you by the Boom Tree Overlook. With the redstone in place and now working, very happy with how that turned out, it was time to actually make the place look pretty and fit in with the area like we planned in the beginning. So, I think it's time for a time lapse. This is Spawn's Edge. I think it fits into the area perfectly. With AJ's town just across the river there as well, it sort of fits in with the same sort of style that's across there. I'm very happy with the way this all turned out, actually. I sort of went back and had a look at some of my Season 1 builds with the Blackstone Village to get some inspiration on how to get the designs of the buildings I wanted to build into Spawn's Edge. And I particularly loved the fact that over in the blue side, we have this warped wood edging around the roofs, while on the other side, in the red team area, we use the crimson wood as the edging for the roofs. So you do also get this sense that both sides also have their own particular areas there as well. And also what's nice is that we also dug out the underneath as well. We've also turned around and put in these little subterranean areas for players to run around and find the items to go through. And playing this game is going to be pretty straightforward. Essentially, the two teams are racing to find as many Unorthoshards from the barrels as they can, which just drop continuously while they're playing. And it's the first team to get 4 stacks back to their base. But they can fight each other to steal shards off each other and prevent them from also doing that on the other side from getting them. And on top of this, we also did this area out as well. So we terraformed this section here. There's just this little jut of land that came around here. So we sort of terraformed it out as well, made it into a little bit of a forest. And then also, going up on the side here, you may remember in the last episode, we were talking about our to-do list of things that we got to do before we get to the end of the season. Spawn's Edge was one of them, and also there is this cliff here that goes up onto the side. I didn't want to go particularly too heavy into it, but yes, I just wanted to make sure that got covered as well. So actually, if we go back to our to-do list, you'll be able to see that on our to-do list, we'd already completed off a couple of things last time. We had the starships done, we also did our lair on the Rainbow Tower, and now we have also done Spawn's Edge, and we have also done the terraform onto the cliff. So we are getting closer to getting everything done before we hit the season end. Of course, I couldn't leave this episode without showing you how the game is actually played and showing you some footage, certainly from the test games. The only problem is I actually spent, I told you, this episode is the cursed episode. I spent 4 or 5 hours editing down some of the clips from the actual test runs, only for Premiere Pro to go completely up in the air on me, and I turn around and lost some of that clippage and everything as well on the process. So I'm going to try and edit this in. I got some of the clips of people talking as they're going through it, as well as some clips of people doing it. I'm going to try and make something out of it, but I highly recommend that you go and check out all the other Unorthoblocks members, and especially the ones at the moment who have also put up Spawn's Edge playthroughs. There are people who have put up videos of it, there's been people doing it on stream, and people have been having an immense fun. It's actually become probably one of the most fun games on the server because it is that free versus free sort of team battle that goes on, so it's quite enjoyable. And while you're at it, if you've enjoyed this and you appreciate Unorthoblocks, don't forget to like and subscribe for this video as well. It really helps as well. But let's go and check out and see how it looks once I finally get it all edited together on how this plays through. Okay, and then when your team is ready, you can hit the button to say
we are
your
ready.
team is ready, and then the game will begin.
Both teams have indicated they are ready. The game has now begun. Good luck.
I'm already lost. I just feel like there's barrels I'm absolutely missing that are probably just loaded right now.
Yeah.
You know?
I feel like they're plotting against me. I don't know what we're doing, but if we're doing anything, we're plotting against.
Oh wait, hold on. Before I do.
Nope. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. No.
I don't even know where I'm going, Shotgun. Please don't have belief in me.
Knowing Draken, there's definitely some hidden ones around here.
Whew. Oh man, this is once you got a good kind of amount of them on your person, it gets kind of stressful.
I did something!
Apparently you're good at ambushing me in particular.
Yeah, someone keeps on going around and killing people.
Oh no, it's Shin! It's Shin! Oh, Shin!
Interesting. I like this map. This is a good map.
Oh, but the killing's the fun parts.
I'll win most PvP
Sketchy
battles.
things.
It's just
Like
sketchy.
that you
Stop
keep
doing
walking around
sketchy
trying to
things.
find the barrels we're looking for.
No, no, no! No! Shit, no! No! Yeah. Oh, God.
I've been just running at you mindlessly with like a bunch of Unorthoshards on me.
Oh, they're both on me, they're both on me. Not two blues here. Oh, Shinobi!
Game over. The red team wins. Please make your way
Hey!
to the exit. Well done, red team, and both teams don't
Woo!
forget to collect
Good
your
job,
winnings.
guys.
Oh!
This is chaos. I love it.
Before we finish this episode, I just wanted to actually have a little bit of talk about the design of the game itself. Yes, I've shown how I built it up with the redstone as we went through, and we did the time lapse showing how we built all the actual aesthetic of it, but actually talk about the game design itself. First of all, the tests were quite successful. They went very, very well. There was a couple of little tweaks I did afterwards. Mainly, I changed the diamond armor that was in there for iron armor. We found that once you started getting diamond armor dropping, the teams basically just gave all the diamond armor to their best players, and then they just became unstoppable killing machines. So just to scale it down, we changed it for iron armor. And the other little change was that I put a bin in each of the starting areas that would enable them to drop off any loot they had picked up, because you ended up with a significant amount of swords and shields after a few deaths, as well as player heads. So there needed to be somewhere where they could just drop all that stuff off out their inventories as well. The game itself actually has 3 entrances that lead into it. I built one in the Nether, so we have a Nether portal that leads straight to the starting area. We also have one that comes in from the catacombs, because really the starting area has this sort of catacomb style feel, as does some of the subterranean sections, so I wanted to make it have that sort of connection over to where we actually have the catacombs. Plus there is an entrance that is up on the dirt path that leads on a little stairwell that brings you straight into the starting area as well. For the starting area itself, it is a little bit cramped. If in hindsight I was to do this again, I'd probably try and make a bit more space around the starting area. I think I sort of limited myself with the redstone that I built around it, with how much space I had to build the starting area. Just about managed to squeeze it all in there, but yeah, I could do with a bit more space down here. One of the other things you'll note when you're going down through the village itself, unless you've got an elytra or ender pearls, which you don't use during the game, when you're on foot and in the village, there is actually no way to get out of the village. I've made sure that I hid all the sort of ways that you could normally get out of there and blocked them up using sort of like fence posting and bushes, etc. So that really the only way in and out is through those drop shafts that bring you in at the beginning, and also the exit point that opens up at the end when the game finishes. This just ensures that people can't suddenly jump outside and sort of skip around the outside of Spawn's Edge. When I was originally coming up with the idea, I thought I'd use the water itself and sort of say, look, you can't go in the water. But then I realized as I designed it and built it that I could actually just block off those areas without it looking like they're detached areas, like the dockyard down at the front. When you look at the village, you could actually break it up into basically 3 sections. There is the red section, the blue section, and the central section. And as I mentioned earlier, I sort of kind of themed the colors around it. So down in the subterranean sections in the red section, you got granite in the walls, and you've also got the crimson wood trims around the roofs. Whereas in the blue section, we used lapis lazuli mixed with blue concrete powder, and then up on the roofs we had the warped crimson. So the crimson, the warped wood. So they all again has that similar sort of theme on either side. And then the central area, I went with a bit more of a neutral tone and that open cavern in the middle. And yes, both sections have a surface area, or both sections, all 3 sections have a surface area, and there is a subterranean section that could be basically said to be a part of those sections. And then they are all linked together, and I created basically, it's almost like bottlenecks. We've got a bridge on the surface, 2 bridges that lead into the central section from each of the side sections, and likewise in the subterranean section there is a tunnel that leads into each. Though you can move quite easily between the subterranean section and the village sections in each of the 3 segments of the map itself, the actual points where you can get from the side sections into the central section are actually quite limited. There is 2 options for each, so that you do have alternative options, but it does also create a bit of a bottleneck, which kind of forces players to actually have to interact. And the central area itself becomes almost like a little bit of a focal point. That's why I made the cavern quite wide down there, and also you got that sort of open sort of square that's on one side of what's almost like the town hall there that sits on one side, which means we ended up with quite a lot of fighting going on in those areas, which was kind of the intention. The distributions of the droppers were also made to be even. Though the map's not designed to be mirror image, they didn't want to have a map like that that was just a pure mirror image of either side. I wanted each section to actually feel unique and different. There is an even distribution of the barrels. So there are 9 barrels in each of the segments, 6 on the surface, 3 below the surface, so that everyone's got equal opportunity. So you could turn around and say, right, the teams could stay in their own sections for the entire game, but they're going to be running around the same 9 barrels, so you're going to have to go at least into the central one, if not into the other team's segment, to turn around and get the extra Unorthoshards to basically give you the lead. Likewise, the weapon drops are also evenly distributed. 5 of the weapon drops are actually in the center section, 3 on the surface, 2 below the surface, and then there's 1 on the surface and 1 below the surface in each of the side sections. So you do have weapon drops in each section, but there's not as many as there is in the center. So again, if you're wanting the armor, you're wanting the potions, etc., you're gonna have to go into the center, which again helps force those teams to get closer together. And there is a little bit of a story about Spawn's Edge that actually ties this all in, because there is what looks like the remains of a core from one of my tower class cruisers dropped on the village. The concept was simple. Basically, during a routine training exercise, one of our ships accidentally ejected its core. It landed on the village, kind of irradiated the village a little bit, causing it to have to be evacuated. Safe enough for us to go in, but these Unorthoshards are suddenly mysteriously appearing, and we're needing to collect them as they're going in there, and it's sort of competing sort of game contest to see who can get the most Unorthoshards out of the village. But that brings us sadly to the end of another episode. And this has been a difficult episode. Now, I was sort of saying this is episode 12, but actually there was an episode that was a special one-off episode when we went over to the Igniters. So technically, this isn't the 12th episode we've done in Season 3, even though it's the 12th one on the server. It's technically our 13th episode. So no wonder the episode's been a little bit cursed in me to make. Well, for those of us who've got tridecaphobia. But I've been Draken. This has been the DrakenGameWerks. And stay tuned, because I'm building one more game. And that's coming up very, very soon. I'm in the middle of building it as I speak while I'm editing this video. And believe me, this is probably the biggest project I have undertaken yet on Unorthoblocks. And I have needed significant help from a number of the other members. But you're going to have to stay tuned and wait until the next episode to see what's going on with that. But I've been Draken. This is the DrakenGameWerks. Have a good one. Once one team reaches the maximum amount, it triggers a game ending mode that enables the game to continue on. No, it doesn't. It doesn't enable the game to continue on. Let's try that again. Emperor Draken, you might want to postpone that invasion. You'll need the Unorthoblocks' help in the future. yeah, this is the time that we introduced ourselves to the council. Buckle up, Draken, because things are about to get weird. This is all quite confusing, but let me get this right. So you're saying that mine, well, really, our ships are going to be brought here and then upgraded. That's correct, and actually from a matter of perspective, it kind of already has happened. We're already in the middle of doing it. Yeah, well, you'll find out more about this. But in the meantime, come and have a look at the rest of the city, and we should introduce you to the council. You know, being back here, I think I can use this place's computer systems and superior capabilities to find a way to defeat BlockTron. Now I just gotta find a way to sneak people into here.